Hi all, this is Skate, and I want to talk AMX 30 prototype. It's the Tier 9 Premium Medium French tank. And I don't really look at the store all too often recently, but I went in the game, had a look at the store, and I was like, ooh, AMX 30 prototype is available. And I knew I had a little bit of footage on this tank on my PC, so I thought, you know what, I'll get a video up on this one. Now before we go any further, I would like to clarify. I'm still a bit miffed that it's not in the tech tree. Kind of feel like a tank this much fun to play should be enjoyed by the masses. Although, that being said, it probably wouldn't be as statistically good if it was in the tech tree, would it? We're laughing, but we also know it's still slightly true. But nonetheless, AMX 30 prototype. It's not in a crate. It's available to buy as a premium tank. And I'm going to be honest, I do think it's worth the punt. Because it is such a nice tank to play. It is just golden. You know how much I like the M48 pattern. This thing is not that far behind it because it has such similar characteristics and playstyle. It's just brilliant to play. I mean, statistically, it's actually the strongest Tier 9 over the last 90 days, with all other Tier 9 medium tanks ranging between 53 and 55% average win rate across the servers. This one coming in at 60% average win rate. So this is a little bit on the strong side. But the reason I love it is the turret and the gun depression. 10 degrees of gun depression on this, combined with a very good frontal turret. I say turret, it's mostly down to the big old gun mantlet. Now the mantlet takes up the vast majority of the front of this thing. It has 150mm armor on the front of the turret, and in front of that it has a big old gun mantlet with 200mm thick. What that means is, without adding effective thickness, that gun mantlet has 350mm of effective thickness because it has armor behind the mantlet. That is bloody good, especially when it fills up so much at the front. Now the cheeks on the left and the right hand side of that gun mantlet are 150mm thick, which gives you an effective thickness and anywhere from around 150 smack bang in the middle, ranging out to 180, and if you're using full gun depression, you've got patches reaching up to 600. In other words, if this thing's using its full 10 degrees of gun depression, there's a high likelihood you're going to hit the mantlet if they're just moving back and forth a little bit. And with that in mind, there's a high likelihood it's going to bounce based on that, because there's very little, if nothing, that will consistently and reliably penetrate that gun mantlet. If you're aiming for this thing, you need to go for the cheeks right next to the gun mantlet in the middle, because they would be the weakest, coming in at around 180mm thick. But as soon as you step out of that tiny little area, well, you start to go up to 280, 300, and as you get further out, like I said, patches up to 600. And then you got the roof. Now, when you're using the gun depression on this thing, the roof is only 100mm thick. But if you see this thing using its gun depression, it's going to have upwards of 400mm effective thickness on the roof. Which then brings us over to that hatch. Now, the hatch is small. It's actually really flat in comparison to a lot of tanks. It's only 40mm thick, but again, good luck hitting that thing when this thing is using its full gun depression. So you got to remember, when this thing's on a ridge using that full gun depression, its hatch is virtually, well, impossible to hit. The first thing that's really coming over is that gun mantlet and gun, which means when you are poking a ridge in this thing, you are an incredibly small silhouette poking over. And you're also, with that gun mantlet, an incredibly tough silhouette sticking over. All in all, this thing is an absolute beast, basically. On a ridge, it's to die for. It's the best you can get. You cannot complain about this in the slightest. And yes, that replay is really old. I did warn it was on my computer for a while. If it's any consolation, the next one is not that old. And usually, I don't really like using any old footage. I was going through my computer, saw this one, and I was like, I'll put that to one side. I haven't made a AMX 30 Proto video in a long time. And then obviously I saw it in store, and I was like, ooh, I remember sorting through some footage on that the other day, and this one is a lot more recent. But either way, that last one gave a nice example of where this tank is at its absolute strongest, which is on a ridge. And thanks to its 10 degrees of gun depression, you can pretty much find anywhere on a map to put this thing on a ridge. Because that then leads us to the hull. The hull is something you want to try and hide as often as possible. I mean, don't get me wrong, thanks to its gun depression, it's quite easy to do. But you're looking around 55mm on the middle front and the lower plate. You're looking 40mm on the top upper plate, although very well sloped. And the sides you're looking 30, and the rear you're looking 30. All in all, in my opinion, it's a ridiculously easy target to penetrate on the flat. So if you are going to get one of these things, use the brilliant mobility you've got to just take it from ridge to ridge as often as you can. And then we're on to the gun. It's got a 100mm gun. That 100mm gun packs 232mm of penetration, which is just average, with 2,795 damage per minute if you run the rammer. Now this is where it comes down to choice, because the premium ammunition on this thing only has 263mm of penetration. Now, that's poor. That is very poor. I think the only other tank which comes to mind instantly is an M46 Patton, which suffers the same fate with poor premium ammunition. Now, premium ammunition isn't something we go out with the intention of spamming. But there are occasions when you will find it a bit more flexible, a bit more useful to just shoot off maybe a premium round or two. But with 263mm of penetration, you're not going to be penetrating anything heavy reliably, frontally anyway. So if there is something pushing you while you're on your ridge, you try and slow it down or give it a bit of damage before you relocate, you're going to struggle with that premium pen. I still use the rammer. It's personal preference. I'd still prefer to use it for the extra bit of DPM, which means I suffer with the 232mm of penetration, which again isn't all that bad, it's just average. But 263 is bad in my opinion, especially for premium ammunition, and most mediums at this tier pack 300. Most, not all. So you can opt for your calibrated shells instead of your gun rammer. Calibrated shells will take your standard ammunition to 244, which is absolutely fine, but it'll take your premium to 276. Still below average. Personal preference, I'd rather bite the bullet with the lower penetration value on the premium, and I'd rather run the rammer. The reason being is because in 90% of cases you use normal ammo, so therefore it's only really going to be massively beneficial, in my opinion, when you're using premium ammunition. So I'd rather take the extra 200 damage per minute by using the rammer. It takes your reload from 7.15 down to 6.6. I feel like there's more situations where that slightly quicker reload could be more beneficial than having a bit of extra premium penetration. If I can't penetrate something, my logic is I'm more than likely in the wrong spot and I need to relocate. But tier 10 heavies can be a nightmare for this tank. If I'm honest with you, that is literally the only drawback of this tank I can think of. The premium ammunition, which again is a very situational drawback. Aside from that, everything about this tank is brilliant. If you're watching this video trying to decide whether or not you should buy it, then the only thing really to be asking is, am I happy to spend X amount on a digital tank? If the answer is yes, which to some it will be, to some it won't be, if it's yes, you won't be disappointed with this one. It is a fantastically fun tank to play. It's fantastically consistent and it's fantastically reliable. I do this all too often. I have so many tanks in my garage that I won't play one for absolutely ages. And this is one of them. And then I get back in it and like, why haven't I played this? And then I'm probably going to spend the next couple of days just playing on this again until I go, ooh, why haven't I played that one in ages? And do it again. And I think, if I remember right, the thing which triggered me to play this tank again was the birthday, which is this game. So I made a bit more credits on this one. 208,000 credits. In the last game we made 70,000 credits. So for a premium, it doesn't tick the box in anything to write home about on credit efficiency. It's good, but it's not great. This tank is all about the playstyle. And with that in mind, I'm going to leave this video here, click upload, and I'm going to go play some AMX 30 Prototype. So thank you all for watching, and I will catch you in the next one. Bye bye.